The Full Melt Show is intended for a mature audience. It contains adult themes, adult content, and sometimes adult language. Listener discretion is advised.
Well, it's all going to pot, whether we like it or not.
We all know what Willie Nelson thinks, and maybe he's right. When it comes to the legalization of marijuana, the landscape is changing fast. And if it's all left you dazed and confused,
you just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
We're here to clear the air. Colorado, Washington State, Oregon, Alaska, and Washington, D.C. have all given a green light to ganja. At least 5 more states are expected to put it on the ballot in 2016. And 23 states now allow it for medicinal use. But marijuana is still illegal under federal law, and the debate over whether to legalize it nationwide is complicated. Opponents believe that doing that would make pot far too accessible and, as a result, increase its use and abuse. They claim multiple studies have shown using it affects the brain, which continues to develop into your mid-20s. Those who support legalization have a laundry list of reasons. They say Colorado has gotten a real windfall from all that smoke, and so would the country if the law were changed. They say billions of dollars have been wasted in the war on this drug, and fighting it has led to too many arrests and too much prison time for nonviolent offenders. That money, they say, could be better used fighting real crime. If marijuana gets legalized nationwide, it would open a virtual Pandora's box when it comes to public policy. All kinds of questions would have to be answered. Who will be the future pot farmers of America? Who will be allowed to set up a pop-up pot shop? How will it be regulated? Who sets the price? How will it be taxed? And where will that money go? Meanwhile, we've come a long way since the days of reefer madness.
Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
In 2014, the majority of Americans said they're in favor of legalizing pot across the U.S. The shift in public opinion has made a candidate's stance on cannabis a key issue on the campaign trail.
Do you think marijuana should be legalized?
I do not.
If you want to make the argument that maybe marijuana is less harmful to health than tobacco, I think you'd probably be making a correct argument.
If you were president, would you return the federal prosecutions in the states like Colorado, Washington State?
Yes.
So far, Uruguay is the only country to fully legalize marijuana, although places like the Netherlands and Spain have much more relaxed rules when it comes to sales and use. Back here in the U.S., this past spring, legislation was introduced in the Senate to reclassify marijuana so it would be allowed for limited medicinal use across the country.
This bill that we are introducing seeks to right decades of wrong and end unnecessary marijuana law.
But for now, whatever you call it...
Is that a joint, man?
Dope is dope. Smoking the reefer.
When it comes to being legal for recreational use in the eyes of the federal government, you may be waiting to exhale. So whether this describes you...
I'm a joker, I'm a smoker, I'm a midnight toker.
Or you're singing a completely different tune when it comes to the debate over legalizing marijuana, at least you can say, now I get it.
Full Melt.
Are you high? What are you talking about?
This is the Full Melt.
Give me a break. The Full Melt Show. A marijuana discussion about news, culture, politics, and lifestyle. FullMelt.com. Toll free. 844-420-TALK. 844-420-TALK.
Oh, it's a happy day for me in the studio. Welcome to another edition of the Full Melt Show. We are broadcasting live from the PepPain.com studios. It is a happy day. And I say that because we've been working very hard, very, very hard in the background for the past couple of years now. Every once in a while I'll make mention of it, but I don't like to talk about it too much because, number one, it's really technical in nature, and I don't want to bore anybody with technicalities because, good Lord, we're mired in enough marijuana technicalities, aren't we? Most of them legal ones, mind you. But the reason that I'm very, very excited about today is because You know, we finally released, well, not released. I have to reel it back in. Oh, I want to say released. We didn't release it yet. There's a few steps before release, but it is coming very soon, finally. Because we have tested and are testing currently, as I speak, a version of the mobile app, the custom-made. We did it ourselves. We didn't go to some big software company and say, hey, make us a mobile app. We didn't find some crappy mobile app from some company that already has some weirdness going on with a whole bunch of broadcasters, like a crap ton of, like a sea of people that you could never find like what you were looking for. Because there's, you know, if you go to like Ustream, or if you go to Justin TV, or if you go to any of the live stream, they have, you know, probably 1 million broadcasters, 1 million people doing video podcasts and streaming audio, various sources. You know, you've got, oh, God, the audio, SoundCloud. There's a whole bunch of them. We use Spreaker to do our stuff, and Spreaker has a mobile app, too. You could download the Spreaker mobile app and search through the tons of crap on there to find our show. You'd have to maybe just put our show name in there and then look it up, and then you could find it that way. But if you just opened up the app, you wouldn't have any idea that we were on the air. You wouldn't. You'd have to find us. Which, you know, presents other problems. How do you find it? If you don't know the name of the show and you're looking for cannabis-related content, how do you find it? This is a perplexing problem for broadcasters. And so we've been, you know, seeking a way to overcome this as an issue, because it's not just the fact that if there is, a company-provided mobile app through one of these distribution services, you still got to get people to get it and find it, download it, and then once they do, they still got to look for you. If they get the name wrong, they might not find you. I give up. Part of what we have to do to make our broadcast easily accessible to you is give you one-button touch. Give you one-button access. They're on. Here we go. How do we know they're on? Well, that's another problem for broadcasters like this show. Since there's no audio that precedes us and no show that follows us, we kind of stand alone out here from 7 until 8 p.m. every day. And so in a way, and that cuts our live audience down. If part of what we do in a radio talk show, a traditional radio talk show, is engage callers. You have a great guest on, you get callers talking to the guest. It makes for interesting content. If you're just doing a radio show, and one day maybe we'll ride video along with this particular program so you can see how we do the radio show, because it can be interesting. In the interest of furthering that, so we've made this streamer app. The streamer app, it doesn't sit on your phone. It's not a mobile app. It's a desktop based app, and this app is going to be free to other cannabis related broadcasters. We'll invite them on specially based on their content. So we'll seek out broadcasters to put on the app for free. We'll give them the streamer app, and they'll stream it to the server. Server streams it to the mobile app. Now, right now, today we got through testing successfully. And I'm about to hear it, I think, when it opens up, because I just opened up the mobile app in Android. This is the Android version of the mobile app. And
to put on the app for free. We'll give them the streamer app, and they'll stream it to the server.
There it is. You see, it's broadcasting right now. There's a little bit of delay.
Today we got through testing successfully. 3, and I'm about to hear it, I think, when it opens up. 5, because I just opened 6, up the mobile app in Android.
7,
this is the Android
8,
version of the mobile app. And
9, 10,
give them the streamer app, and 11, they'll stream it to the server.
12,
there it is.
13. So it's about 13 to 15 second delay there. Yes, you had to start counting. I got to shut it off because it'll drive you and me nuts. But that is the Android app. I could still broadcast on Spreaker and click another button and stop the audio going to the app, because it's going from a separate little thing there. But what's really cool about this is this will give us the ability, if I'm successful in getting other broadcasters on the app, and I think I will be, because there's some great incentive here. Number one, the app is going to be free to use. There won't be any charges for using the app. If you want to download the app and use it, you get it for free. The streamer will be provided, and the service will be provided for free to the broadcaster. And I've already vetted out a couple of broadcasters. I know Russ Belville was interested in getting on this app. But see, in the meanwhile, in the 2 years that it's taken us to develop this app, he's developed a couple of mobile apps of his own that just deliver audio. So he does a video show on YouTube and on Ustream. I think he puts stuff up on YouTube, and then he also streams on Ustream. And so Russ Belville's show, it is the Russ Belville Show. 420radio.org, I believe, if you want to find the Russ Belville Show. He's broadcasting all the time, but it isn't him live. He broadcasts from 4 p.m. Eastern until 6 p.m. Eastern daily. I believe. Is it 4 to 6 Eastern? I don't know. It's right in that neighborhood. I know he's on the same time. Maybe it's 4 p.m. Pacific. That's what it is. So he's on the air right now with us. That's the deal. He's on the air at the same time as we are, but he's Pacific time. He's over there in Oregon, where he's broadcasting. We're in suburban Detroit. So what I've talked to Russ about this, hopefully, because, see, Russ uses a particular kind of software that uses multiple cameras. He's got multiple cameras hooked up. So he can give you different angles, different views of what's going on. He can click and select. He's got special effects. He can do all kinds of stuff. He's really got a great system over there. But, when he gets off the air, he plays other podcasts from other programmers. So he's got his own kind of version of this going, but doesn't have really any mobile distribution for the video end of that whatsoever. And then, so the idea here is that give this to Russ. Then his video shows up on the mobile app, right? People can watch the video on the mobile app, just like they could watch it on, if you were going online and clicking on Ustream. Now, because if you go to Ustream, you get the same problem with Russ's show. You got to find it unless he provides you a link, or you can go through the link. I don't know. It's really convoluted. So the idea here is also, how do people know when Russ is on live? Because, we know the thing is always broadcasting. It's, giving a great free promo for Russ's show. I don't mind it all, though, because we all work together to get stuff done in the cannabis community. And this is my contribution to educating America about what cannabis means and what it doesn't mean. Just like Katie Couric gave you the overview here from Yahoo. Katie moved to Yahoo now, talking about this cannabis stuff. So there's more of this programming going to come from lots of other broadcasters like myself. Some of us traditional broadcasters, as I am. Some of them not so traditional. Russ is a traditional broadcaster. Comes from traditional radio roots, just like I did. But there are other people that do other content. And it's not just audio like we're doing right now, but it's video. And the streamer that he uses, the software that he uses, is recognized by this streamer app and streams it directly to the server, directly to the mobile app. So, and he should have the way you can know Russ is on live, because he can send push notifications to his own audience. Hey, the Russ Belville Show is on live now, and here's our guests. Click on this link, and it opens up the app. And there you go, broadcasting live. So, it's going to be a new day in broadcasting coming very soon. We got to do some more testing here and get the iOS version working, and Windows and everything else. The mobile app, it's going to be called the Wax app from thefullmelt.com.
You're getting the Full Melt.
Got something to hide? Canalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Canalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Canalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Canalock.com. Visit Canalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience, bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571. 571.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with Max Power monster aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Registered, licensed, certified, ordained.
Sacred Elements.
Massage, hypnosis, Reiki.
Sacred Elements.
Raindrop, aroma and color therapy, body detox, ministry, life coaching, weight and nutrition counseling.
Sacred Elements. Next to the Sweet Leaf, 400 South Door Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570.
Hey, this is Tommy Chong, and you're listening to The Full Milk Show.
My heart is wasted, cut up like a drug.
It's just so weird. I love new technology. Love new technology, especially when the new technology was something that you had a hand in creating. 2 years, I'm telling you, 2 years is a long time to work on software. It'll make you cross-eyed. So now the company producing this program is not only a broadcasting company, it is now a software development company. I love this. So look for that mobile app coming soon. The other thing that it answers, just by the way, and I'm getting into marijuana news here shortly, so bear with me. The other thing that it answers is, part of the problem when you've got one of these Ustream or one of these other, broadcasters that do all kinds of broadcasting, they let people do any kind of broadcasting, is that you don't know when they're on live. And there's so many that are on live at the same time, if they put them on the page, you could never find them. This is what Google answers to people who are searching for information, right? It's all about relevance. You give it a search term, and it finds the relevance of that search term and then gives you responses accordingly. So if you change the search term slightly, you might get different responses because it's looking to create a list for you based on the relevance of what you typed in as a search term. It's difficult to find programming this way, especially if the search bar that you're using isn't created by Google, but is now created by the company that made whatever broadcasting stuff they're using. What this will do is, because it is only confined to cannabis content producers, people doing stuff about medical marijuana or cannabis or hemp, any of those kind of shows, we'll invite onto this mobile app, give it access to them and to you for free. And so because it's a niche market, this particular kind of broadcasting, the number of broadcasters broadcasting live are always going to be pretty much at the top because there's not a ton of us right now. There's just maybe, I don't know, if I was to count up all the marijuana-related shows on the internet now, there might be 30 or 50 total that do regular shows. Some people do, hey, I did this little film about weed or something. Some people do just one thing or do something for a week and let it go or do some kind of special and be done. There are others that post stuff weekly and sometimes monthly, and we post stuff during weekdays on a daily basis. And then there are some people that broadcast all the time, like Russ Belville's show does. So we're going to put all of this stuff in one place so that the live shows, every time a new live show comes up, it pops up at the top of the app. Hey, there's a new live show on. And you have the opportunity of sharing audiences with other cannabis shows that didn't know about your show. Before, they didn't know at all. And then the other thing that's really cool about this is that people will know about getting the app because everybody that's got a show on the app will want to advertise how you can get the app. Hey, go to the iTunes store, get the app. Hey, go to the Google Play Store, get the app, download the Android version. There'll be a Windows version. We'll make this available for all platforms. Right now, the Android version is working in test. It's a beta version. And unfortunately, you can't get it yet. I suppose you could. You know what I could do? If you wanted to be a part of the beta testing group, testing the mobile app and watching its development change, because it will change, you could send an email to me and give me your a phone number, a contact number. We'll call you up and tell you how to give your phone permission to download the app, and then I'll send you a link where you could download and test the Android version. This will not work with iOS, with iPhone, or if you're listening on iPad or any iOS-related products, because you have to actually put that device on a keychain to make it let you download the test version of the app when it's not through the store. It won't just let you download anything. You have to give it permission. And it's not just like Google, because Google, you just give, in the Android version, you just give it permission to download any app. It'll just download any app. But with Apple, they lock it down. You have to specifically give a particular device permission to download this version of this app. So if you got Apple, you got to wait for a few minutes until we get a couple things unbound with that. But it's almost ready, because if it's working in Google, it'll work in Apple. We just can't test it yet because there's just a hump in downloading the app. It's really a couple button pushes and it should be a fix. But on the larger scheme, putting that push notification feature in, it comes right from the streamer thing. It's going to be so cool. I'm so excited because we'll be able to bring you more content from other people that you would have never found before. Because, the world of cannabis doesn't revolve around this show by any means. Howard Stern is the king of all media. I could make that claim to this, but I'm not trying to do that. I'm really not. I'm just one speck in a mountain of others, lots of specks. We do a lot of content, so maybe our pile's a bit bigger than other piles. But I think you should have a chance to hear the other piles because it's not just crap. There's a lot of good quality producers of cannabis content out there, and we intend to bring it to you. So that's the end of that for now. Details coming soon. Email me at thefullmelt@gmail.com and ask to be a part of the Android testing crew, and we'll hook you up with a test version of the Android app. And you can listen along with us. And as we get push notifications developed for everything, because we've already done that development before, we have to re-put it into this new software. So it should be pretty turnkey, pretty ready to rock and roll. I noticed in the news today, and I couldn't not bring this up because it's one of these things that seems to be, a backward slide, somewhat. You heard us talk about how California views marijuana grows as a threat to the water supply there, being that they have this big drought. The drought, I think, has been mitigated to some degree recently because there's been some water. There's been some moisture. They've had some summer relief to a normally very dry season. Summer's the dry season in California. The wet season is in the winter. Marijuana growing, though, happens in the summer, doesn't it? They can't really grow marijuana in the winter. The light schedule isn't right. It wouldn't bloom and grow properly. Marijuana starts fruiting when the light schedule reaches a certain lights on, lights off kind of thing. When that schedule reaches about 12 hours at night, the plant wants to start blooming. And in the wintertime, you don't get that 12 hours of darkness, do you? Well, you get more than that. But it's not enough to grow in. There's not enough light. It's hot enough out there. It's just not enough light. And so everybody grows their pot in the summer outside, and that uses water during the dry season. This is a problem. So what they do to overcome this problem is store water from the winter. Like they have some big water bladders, huge, giant. I've never seen balloons, big plastic containers. It's a big rubber vessel, but it's housing water. And they get it in the wintertime, and that's what goes in there. But then they use that water out of that big bladder to irrigate with in the summertime. I've never seen this before up until, this issue with California. Maybe part of the reason I haven't seen it before is because they really didn't use it much before. But when the drought kicked in, it caused a need to use these kinds of systems to keep the grows going. Now, that being said, there are a lot of illegal grows going on in California. I think the estimate was 95,000 grows over 6 plants. That's a crap load of grows. 95,000 grows over 6 plants? And so with this many grows going on and this much water being impacted, it seems like the government wanted to, because there's a test pilot program that we talked about a couple weeks back, where there's a water enforcement division that isn't trying to bust the marijuana grows. They don't care so much about the legality of the grow so much as they care about how they're using water and whether they're contaminating the water supply with any runoff. Those are important issues. I think they're important everywhere, but especially where water is not very plentiful, is in short supply, it's even a bigger issue. And so today, this story comes out. It's posted in the LA Times, Dateline, August 7th, Los Angeles. Governor Jerry Brown on Friday signed into law a measure allowing steep civil fines against marijuana farms that damage the environment by dumping wastewater and chemicals, removing trees, and killing wild animals. The measure, one of 16 bills signed by the governor on Friday, is meant to expand the powers of the State Department of Fish and Wildlife at a time when illegal marijuana operations are expanding significantly. Senator Bill Monning introduced the measure based on concerns that since California voters approved medical marijuana use back in 1996, the number of illegal growing operations in state parklands and forests has increased. Last year, state agents participated in nearly 250 raids on illegal marijuana operations in which 609,480 marijuana plants were eradicated and 15,839 pounds of processed marijuana was seized. It's 15,839 pounds of domestically produced California pot. Investigators found more than 135 dams or diversions in rivers and streams that resulted in the theft of about 5 million gallons of water from marijuana grows. These practices exacerbate California's already historic drought conditions and severely affect coho salmon runs and other fishery populations, Monning said. Though stream diversion is already subject to civil fines, the new law signed by the governor would provide for fines of up to $40,000 for illegally dumping many kinds of hazardous materials into rivers and streams, and fines up to $10,000 for removing trees or trapping and killing wildlife. The need for flat, fertilized land to cultivate cannabis plants has forced some bad actors to eliminate native vegetation and destroy forested habitat, often bulldozing acres of land, with no regard for its ecological effects, Monning said, adding that it can cost up to $15,000 per acre to clean up and restore each acre damaged. Brown also signed into law a new law aimed at protecting residential neighborhoods from chemical explosions caused by laboratories creating methamphetamine and concentrated cannabis. You notice how they jump those together. They do both pose a hazard if you're not doing it properly. The measure by Senator Tony Mendoza, he's a Democrat, allows the court to provide additional penalties as factors of aggravation in drug cases where occupied residences are within 200 feet of a methamphetamine lab and 300 feet of a concentrated cannabis manufacturing lab. The measure was requested by the California District Attorneys Association because of concern that the process for making the two drugs involve volatile chemicals that have been known to cause explosions and fires. Brown on Friday also vetoed a bill by Senator Frank Vidak, he's a Republican, that would have required the State Department of Education to gather and post on its website data showing how many students are transported to school by bus at each school district. So there's it seems like there's some other stuff there about schools that they talked about. But it seems that California is now beginning to crack down and get serious based on the story that we just did a couple of weeks ago. We like to be on the cutting edge of the news here. If we get an opportunity to break a story, we've broken many on this program. If you're looking for cutting edge news, stuff that happened today, stuff that's going to affect you today and tomorrow, you'll find it right here on this show. And, you know, the show is going to evolve as time goes on. Right now, I'm just giving you some basic news information. I'm just providing you what happened during that. I'm just kind of recapping, reading you some stories about stuff that went on today. But I've already kind of vetted through it to find what's important and what seems to be not so important. You know, there's a story in Wired about nobody knows what to do about pesticides and legal marijuana. Really? How about test it? I mean, really? All right, this story I have to do because of the presidential debate. It seems that because the first Republican primary debate happened in Cleveland, Ohio last night, to much fanfare. 25 million people watched that debate. And then Donald Trump went on a, tirade today about what happened at that event. I don't know. There's a lot to talk about Donald Trump, isn't there? Columbus, Ohio. Responsible Ohio's marijuana legalization amendment isn't on the ballot yet, but it aired its first TV commercial Thursday night during the Republican presidential debate with a brief ad directing viewers to the campaign's website to, quote, get the facts, end quote. The 16-second spot that aired Thursday night on Fox News featured an African-American woman standing in front of a white background telling viewers they might have heard about the plan to legalize marijuana and wondered, quote, if this plan makes sense, end quote, and, quote, how will it make Ohio safer, end quote. But the woman doesn't go on to explain, instead telling viewers to watch more videos on Responsible Ohio's website. Wow. You know what I'm going to do for you? When we come back after the break, because I'm going to read you the story, but when we come back after the break, I'll actually play you that ad. The ad ran 5 times Thursday night, according to Responsible Ohio spokeswoman Jennifer Redmond. Unlike broadcast stations, cable TV companies like Fox News don't have to disclose campaign ad sales. Redmond declined to say how much the ad cost. Are Responsible Ohio's ads and web videos effective? Well, you don't know. The Political Action Committee posted 6 videos on its website detailing talking points it hopes will persuade voters this November to approve its marijuana legalization amendment to the Ohio Constitution. The videos tout Responsible Ohio's plan as a solution to failed cannabis prohibition that has created a black market for the drug and a way for patients to obtain therapeutic and life-saving marijuana products. The video series outlines why it's time for marijuana legalization in our state, quote unquote. Responsible Ohio spokeswoman Faith Oltman said in a statement, quote, "We're no longer willing to surrender our streets to drug dealers, and we're excited about the positive outcomes legalization will provide. Compassionate health care, new jobs and businesses, and money back to our communities. We know Ohioans are excited too, and we look forward to having a conversation with voters about legalizing in our state." Responsible Ohio has received pushback from cannabis advocates and state officials on both sides of the aisle for its proposed marijuana industry model. The proposed amendment assigns the 10 commercial growing licenses to parcels of land owned by campaign backers. Adults 21 and older could use and possess up to 1 ounce of marijuana for personal and medical use. Marijuana would be sold for tax-free to medical patients and taxed for retail sales, with tax revenues going to research and drug abuse and addiction treatment. Responsible Ohio needs to submit at least 305,591 signatures of registered Ohio voters to qualify for the November ballot, the group falling short with its initial batch, but last week turning in 3 times the number of additional signatures needed. County boards of elections have until early next week to verify signatures and report them to Secretary of State John Husted. Husted said he's hired an investigator to examine Responsible Ohio's signature collection practice for possible fraud. Responsible Ohio leaders have said they will challenge what they say is a discrepancy in signatures counted, but have yet to file a complaint with the Ohio Supreme Court. And since there's time to play it, I'm going to see if I can... is it going to... plugging it in now. See how it goes.
I'm sure you've heard about the ballot issue to legalize marijuana, and you're probably wondering, does this plan make sense? How will it make Ohio safer? And what does it mean for me? Go to responsibleohio.com and get the facts.
That's the ad. That's all it aired. I was going to do it after the break, but we got a chance to do it before. App testing day here at the Marijuana Radio Show, otherwise known as the Full Melt Show. Hang on, when we come back from the break, more news on the cannabis industry as to the way it could affect you today and tomorrow. Stand by for more of the Full Melt Show in full testing mode today with a new mobile app. It's called the Wax app.
You're getting the Full Melt.
Get growing with GrowMax. Indoor, outdoor, beginner, or a warehouse full of Gavitas. Probiotic organics, or huge production with max power monster aeroponics systems. We can help you rock it. YouTube GrowMax with 2 X's. Customer service is why we're blowing up. And I'm Dave. My cell number is 906-221-2111. We also specialize in electrical and HVAC and new double-ended bulb technology. 906-221-2111. Get growing. GrowMax.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. Petpain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
You know, it's not easy out there, but it can be easier. And when it comes to medical marijuana in Michigan and chronic pain management, Dr. Bob Townsend, renowned for his patient advocacy and deep understanding of how patients and medical marijuana certifications fit together, makes it his hallmark to educate and provide the best holistic treatment for your condition. His knowledgeable staff makes you feel warm and welcome, and Dr. Bob makes you feel well. With locations across the state in Cadillac and Gaylord, Kalamazoo, Marquette, Mount Pleasant, Muskegon, Saginaw, Traverse City, you can't beat the convenience and feeling you get knowing you have someone on your side that cares. Denali Healthcare is on the web at denalihealthcaremi.com. Get answers to your holistic health questions or schedule an appointment now by calling 989-339-4464. Chronic pain management and holistic health answers is what they do. It's all they do. DenaliHealthcareMI.com. Get your certification and peace of mind now by making an appointment with Dr. Bob Townsend at 989-339-4464. Introducing Sacred Elements, a place for natural and alternative healing for the mind, body, and soul. Sacred Elements. It's one place, all solutions.
Alkaline water, herbal remedy, essential oil,
Sacred Elements.
natural and organic shampoo, lotion, pain cream, bath salt,
Sacred Elements.
beeswax candles and handmade crafts, canes and walking sticks, artwork, jewelry, and repurposed goods.
Sacred Elements. Next to this Wheat Leaf, 400 South Dort Highway, Flint.
11 to 7 daily, closed Sunday.
Call 810-259-2570. It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
Radio show.
You can hear us live Monday through Friday from 7 until 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Eastern Standard Time at thefullmelt.com. Really easy to subscribe to us. We are listed on iTunes as a podcast. Every day after the show goes off the air, it sums up as a podcast. It's available on iTunes. And it's really easy to subscribe to that iTunes podcast. If you go to thefullmelt.com, right there at the top of the page is an iTunes link. Click on that link to subscribe. It's just that easy. I was talking to you about marijuana news, other stuff that's been happening. Lansing, medical marijuana cases dragging on as laws evolve. I don't often do stories out of Michigan, but in the instance that the Lansing State Journal is going to talk about how marijuana law is evolving and how medical marijuana cases are dragging on in the courts as a result, I think this applies to almost everyone, at least about this subject. Dateline Lansing. This comes from the Lansing State Journal. I'm reading to you from the lansingstatejournal.com a couple of hours ago. One law and the case against three men have been in limbo for years as the justice system tries to determine what's legal and what's not when it comes to medical marijuana. The case against the men, Zebediah Dewey, Daniel Corbin, and Michael Lewis Jr. is an example of how poorly drafted the medical marijuana law that didn't set up a clear legal mechanism for patients to buy the drug is still evolving in Michigan's courts. After the 2008 law took effect, dispensaries like the Hydro World locations in Lansing, where the three men worked, began to spring up until they were declared illegal. Now they operate in a legal gray area until a law enforcement agency chooses to shut them down or arrest people who work there, as Attorney General Bill Schuette's office did with Dewey, Corbin, and Lewis back in 2012. The case has already been dismissed by one Lansing judge, a decision that was appealed by the Attorney General's office. That dismissal was upheld in 2013 by another Lansing judge who at the time said the law's ambiguity had to be interpreted in favor of the defendants. To suggest one can assist in using or administering marijuana in accordance with the MMMA and that this would not include obtaining marijuana would be an absurd conclusion, 54A District Judge Court Judge Hugh Clark said in his order to dismiss the case back in 2012. But that was before the third Supreme Court opinion on the law, which is applied retroactively, said that patient-to-patient sales, like the kind that the Dewey, Corbin, and Lewis cases had, were illegal. Just last week, the law's landscape shifted again for the 8th and 9th time when the Supreme Court issued its opinions on People v. Hartwick and People v. Tuttle. Those opinions resulted in the attorneys altering or refining the legal strategies before a hearing next month. Those maneuvers are nothing new for the three men who have been stuck in a legal system that may finally determine in 2015 whether their actions in 2011 broke a law that's been clarified 9 times. Nick Bostic, Lewis's attorney, said he was glad they were able to once again push back the trial, this time to November. We felt this was coming, he said, and now, when we do our motions, Judge Rosemarie Aquilina issues her rulings. We've reduced the risk that we'll go up and come back again. That we will go up and come back again. The Attorney General's office declined to comment, citing policy not to comment on pending litigation. Before he became Attorney General in 2011, Schuette was a Court of Appeals judge and served as chairman of Citizens Protecting Michigan's Kids, a group that opposed the 2008 voter initiative that created the state's Medical Marijuana Act, the ballot proposal passing with a 68% approval on the vote. A month before that vote, Schuette told the Associated Press that the law was so deeply flawed and loosely written that as a judge, I would say the problem here is the law of unintended consequences that provides deep pitfalls for Michigan voters in November. He added that he was sensitive to the issues facing people with severe pain problems, but also felt the bill would make it easier for children and teens to obtain marijuana for recreational use. Lansing Police Chief Mike Yankowski said his department handles the city's dispensaries on a case-by-case basis in conjunction with prosecutors. He added that most law enforcement agencies would like much of the law to be clarified. The undercover operation that kicked off the case focused on 2 Hydro World medical marijuana dispensaries in South Lansing. Undercover officers from Michigan State Police and the Lansing Police Department bought marijuana from the dispensaries about 10 times between May and September of 2011, posing as patients in the process of applying for their medical marijuana licenses. The officers were able to buy an eighth of an ounce of marijuana without their medical marijuana licenses, according to testimony. The law allows patients to have up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana. If they've not specified a caregiver, they can also have up to 12 marijuana plants kept in an enclosed, locked facility. Caregivers are allowed to cultivate and sell marijuana to their designated patients. But patients aren't required to have a designated caregiver, which creates problems because the law doesn't otherwise address how a patient can legally get marijuana. The defendant sold officers marijuana after seeing their application for the state license, helping them fill out an application or reimbursing them from a previous instance when they had their application, the officers testified. The defendants are also charged with several counts of delivering, manufacturing marijuana. Corbin, who's of Lansing, is facing 7 counts. Lewis, also of Lansing, facing 6 counts. Dewey of Six Lakes is facing 2 counts. A 4th defendant, Rick Gowen, or Gowen it could be, was charged but failed to appear during a hearing in district court, so his case is pending in district court yet. A bench warrant is issued for his arrest. Each charge has a 7-year maximum sentence. The Attorney General's office filing a motion June 19th to prevent the men from using the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act in their defense. Why would you do that? Really? Attorneys for the 3 men charged in the circuit court said their clients are frustrated with the process. Lewis's attorney, Nick Bostic, said his clients started working at Hydro World to, quote-unquote, help people take advantage of the new law, end quote. He added that Lewis was no longer working at the dispensary. It's very frustrating to have expectations changed when the lower courts rule in your favor, but you still have to be put through a prosecution months later, Bostic said in an email. Danny Trevino, Hydro World's owner, didn't return a message left seeking comment. Corbin, the only one of the 3 still working at the dispensary, had been a construction worker and was looking for a job when he was offered a position at the dispensary, his attorney, Vince Green, said in a recent interview. Green said a criminal charge and a prolonged court case has created anxiety for his client. It wasn't as if Corbin did something that in his mind was obviously wrong or criminal, Green said. He felt that what he was doing was within the bounds of the law, and he still continues to feel that today, Green said. He's really mystified. I guess you could say confused about why he's not being prosecuted when he, as a layperson, thought he was within the bounds of the law. In the opinions of for Tuttle and Hartwick, Justice Brian Zahara said the process that led to the law being passed contributed to its poor drafting. The voters who passed the law didn't have the responsibility to write and edit the law for, quote, content, meaning, and readability or consistency, he said. The many inconsistencies in the law have confused or caused confusion for medical marijuana caregivers and patients, law enforcement, attorneys, and judges, and have consumed valuable public and private resources to interpret and apply it, he said. Zahara's comments echoed those by Clark and Ingham County Circuit Judge Rosemarie Aquilina more than 2 years ago when they dismissed the case against Dewey, Corbin, and Lewis. This court believes that the MMA screams for legislative clarification in numerous areas. However, absent that clarification, this court concludes that the transactions that took place here were undertaken in accordance with the MMA, Clark said in 2012 in his order to dismiss the charges. Clark said that according to testimony, the transactions in this case involved a review of the appropriate documents, and the defendants believed they were assisting people getting marijuana that they had a medical need for. The Attorney General's office appealed Clark's ruling to dismiss the charges. The appeal was handled by Aquilina, who upheld the decision. She added that the law was, quote, poorly drafted, end quote, and had, quote, conflicting provisions, end quote. But the case was bound over to Ingham County Circuit Court after the Supreme Court ruled that patient-to-patient sales were illegal. I mean, this is what we deal with in the world of medical marijuana specifically. But this is also something that I anticipate you might be seeing come forward in other cases that are not medically related. In Michigan, the Medical Marijuana Act provides for a protection. It's an immunity. It's a limited immunity, much like the kind that police have with their badge. So if a police officer in the course of his duties shoots somebody, as long as he was acting responsibly within his duties, he's immune for that murder because it isn't going down as a homicide. When the coroner gets done with his examination, he's going to say this was caused by somebody else's hand, and that being the case, This is a homicide, but it's considered a justifiable homicide because police have this limited immunity. Now, if he wasn't acting according to departmental rule, if he wasn't acting the way he was trained, if he was doing something on his own that wasn't within the confines of his job, then his immunity goes away. Because the immunity only applies if you're acting in the course of the duties of your job. And it's this way with most government workers. A lot of government workers have shields, immunities of protection for doing their jobs. And I think this is a reasonable request. Now, when you look at that same immunity as applied to the Medical Marijuana Act, it's exactly the same. The cop gets his immunity through his badge, through his being sworn as a public peace officer. People in the medical marijuana community get their immunity under several legs. First, they have to have a qualifying condition. Second off, they've got to get a doctor to certify that. This doctor cannot just be any doctor. He has to be one of your regular doctors, somebody that sees you already, somebody that you know. It has to be a bona fide doctor-patient relationship. You just can't go pay a doctor to sign your certification because he agrees with you. There has to be a physical examination. There has to be the expectation of follow-up care. There's a whole bunch of tenets that you have to stand upon in order to get your Section 4 and Section 8 defenses. And the courts this past week, not this week, but the week before, on Monday, defined that, gave you the elements they described these elements. Here are the elements that you need to prove with a preponderance of the evidence if you want Section 4 protection against, like the cops have with that limited immunity, against arrest and prosecution. Now, failing that, if you did something that's outside of that immunity, that thing stands on its own. And you may have a defense in court to the trier of fact, either the judge or the jury on the case, depending on which you selected, to present this Section 8 defense. And the court, again, outlined what those elements are. And you have to prove those with a preponderance of the evidence. And so in coming and future shows, we'll examine this a little closer in detail and describe to you how you can best prepare to amass the preponderance of evidence needed if you ever have to bring your case before a judge or a zealous prosecutor, defending yourself with the limited immunity provided to you under the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act.
You're getting the full melt.
Got something to hide? Cannalock offers discreet and effective storage solutions that destroy odor, so nobody knows. Cannalock is a patented charcoal-activated bag that discreetly stores your marijuana. Cannalock is made from the same material as military chemical warfare suits. Get yours at Cannalock.com. Visit Cannalock.com to learn more about no-smell technology.
Imagine a world where patients can use marijuana like any other medicine. The Marijuana Patients Organization challenges the status quo by helping our neighbors to enjoy a better quality of life. Visit the MPO at marijuanapatients.org and enjoy informative articles, engaging debates, and information about treatments, doctors, and dispensaries in your area. Over 50,000 people have registered at marijuanapatients.org since 2010. Join us at the Marijuana Patients Organization today, marijuanapatients.org.
Hey, it's Steve Green for the Sweet Leaf in Flint, because now getting safe access to medical cannabis patients in Flint, Michigan is never more welcoming. Presenting the Sweet Leaf, a brand new patient experience bringing 12 carefully selected caregivers housed in 9 separate offices to distinctly assist you with their knowledge and reputation for excellent patient care. Classes and training coming soon in the large community room. Check it out in person, 400 South Door Highway, or call 810-259-2571. The Sweet Leaf Center in Flint, 810-259-2571.
If you're like us, your pets aren't just animals. They're members of your family. Pet Pain CBD hemp oil drops are great for aging as well as active dogs and cats. Some people are apprehensive about hemp treatments for pets. They ask us, what are you smoking? Absolutely nothing, and neither will your pet. Like other hemp-based products for humans, the allure is all of the benefits of cannabis without any of the high. The CBD oil has shown to rejuvenate the bones, joints, brain, stomach, eyes, and heart. And the drops contain absolutely no corn, wheat, soy, artificial colors and flavors, or preservatives. Pick some up today. Visit petpain.com or ask for Pet Pain at your local pet store. PetPain.com. CBD relief for your pet.
It's the Full Melt Radio Show.
I wanna be bad with you, girl, like we're robbing a bank. I wanna be mad at the world, like it took you away. Don't wanna be mad.
So, in other news today, I had to tell you, this is also a Michigan-related story. I can't believe I squeezed so much Michigan in today. I'm not used to normally doing that. Normally we stretch around in other places. Today, we do a lot of testing today. But I wanted to tell you about some resolution with DTE. DTE, if you're not familiar with them, is one of the electric service providers here in Michigan. It's the old Detroit Edison. And so, DTE, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about certain things with those guys because for a very long time, for about 6 years now or so, I've had the advantage of being a medical marijuana caregiver and patient in this state. And when you're a patient and you have a grow going on and you got to do it indoors, because where I'm at, I have to do it indoors. There's no possibility I could do it outside here. Just doesn't. Conditions don't allow for me to do that out here. So being this inside grow, your electric bill is going to go up, right? Well, I take issue with DTE because I told you before on this program that I discovered, through my own research, mind you, that there is a cheaper way to do your grow through the electric company. But you've got to know some stuff that they don't tell you. They'll say they told you because it's on their website somewhere, or it might be in a package insert with your bill somewhere. But there's a lot of other ads in there. There's a lot of stuff from other people in there. And I think most people, they look at the bill. They're not looking at all the inserts. So it's kind of in the fine print that, hey, we have this other charging method. So to put it in a nutshell, if you just are a regular residential customer and you get a regular meter, they're going to charge you 12 cents a kilowatt hour for each kilowatt hour you use. Now, if you use a lot of kilowatt hours, you're going to have a big bill. However, and I would argue that most people do this already anyways because it saves on cooling. Because you got to cool those very hot lights. They're very bright. They're very hot. And they need to be cooled. Otherwise, you'll exceed a temperature that the plants cannot withstand. So to keep from burning your plants up, you cool them, and you cool them significantly. You actually cool them below the outside temperature in the summertime. That's a lot of heating and a lot of cooling, all being done by your local electric company. Now, if you're getting charged 12 cents a kilowatt hour, like I said, depending on how long you leave your lights on, and most people do that with 12 hours on a grow, I would suggest that's not the exact methodology. I would suggest you can do that cheaper yet, but that's another story. Most people are using 12 hours of light. If you got 6,000 watts of light on a grow, each light costing you approximately $100 a month light, that's $600 for that month, in addition to your regular electric consumption. If you do that grow in the evening hours, it costs less because it's cooler outside, it costs less to cool. So if you do that in the overnight hours, it's even less. So a lot of people already do that because it costs them less to cool their indoor grow during the overnight hours. Now, if you call up DTE and you ask them for a split meter, if you ask them for a what they call it, what the technical term for it is a dual meter, also known as an on-peak, off-peak meter. And what this does is it records when you use your power. So it records the kilowatt hours during the daytime, during an 8-hour period from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. I'm sorry, from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then for the 16 hours that follow from between 7 p.m. and 11 a.m., they charge you a different rate. And it's literally 1/3 of the other rate. It's 4 cents a kilowatt hour instead of 12. 3 times 4 being 12. So it's 2/3 cheaper. It's only 1/3 the price of the regular meter. Now, this meter costs you about $12 to put in every month. It costs, $19. It's a $19 a month meter. The other meter costs you like $6. So it costs a little more for the meter. But I would argue that nights and weekends, being 16 hours a day and all weekend, every weekend, you could be getting charged 4 cents a kilowatt hour instead of 12 but you have to ask for this meter. Now, it costs a lot of money at 12 cents a kilowatt hour to light 6,000 watts of light, 12 hours a day. I told you it's about $600 a month at 12 cents a kilowatt hour. You know, give or take, depending on what math you're using and how long you use the lights on. If you do that at night, theoretically, you could cut the $600 bill, if that's what it's costing you from your grow, down to $200. $600 versus $200. Now, what bothers me is that for 5 years, I've paid the 12 cents a kilowatt hour rate. And sometimes had to struggle with that bill because it's not an easy bill to overcome, especially being a person on limited income. If you're a medical patient, that becomes really hard. If you're on a fixed income for a disability, that's even harder. I am disabled. I have a disability. And collect Social Security as a result of that. So that disability costs me to handle, costs me to take care of. But that bill, that electric bill, is eating up literally over half of my monthly income. But it bothers me tremendously that DTE would not want to inform myself or any other people that they have this alternate charging method. So I get on the phone with people and say, hey, this bill is too big. How can I make the bill smaller? Is there anything that I can do to get a smaller bill for using this much electricity? And the answer was always, well, you've got a limited income. We can give you, they would offer you, we could have somebody come out and check your walls and your insulation. They got all these other things about how to keep your heat in and, how to keep certain things unplugged. But nobody ever offered me this cheaper rate. And so I've taken issue with them about that. And because I attempted to alert all the people on this radio show that, hey, if you're in Michigan and you use DTE, they have, which is probably the vast majority of the population in this, southern part of this state. There's a way that you can cut your electric bill. So as a member of the media, I went to DTE and said, look, can we have somebody from your public relations team come on and talk about this on the radio? And the response that I got back was, At first they said, yeah, we'll come on and talk about this. And then they thought about it for a minute. No, it's a marijuana-related thing. No, we're going to pass. So the company that goes on TV and radio and spends money to tell the guy from Cash Cab to go out on and tell, with his comedy, those little 30-second, comedy-type commercials. They're spun with some lighthearted comedy by this, Cash Cab guy. To get to know your own power. DTE, know your own power. I mean, that's the line. They call it a name and claim. DTE, that's the name. The claim is know your own power. DTE, know your own power. Now, how in the world are we supposed to get to know our own power if when you call up to complain about the size of your bill, nobody gives you the alternate method of charging? And even worse yet, if you are supposed to know your own power and people they're spending money to provide this message to people, DTE, get to know your own power. If the public service representatives, or the media reps, the people, what do they call them? It's escaping me at the moment. They're media reps. It's a public relations firm. If the public relations department of DTE is unwilling to come on and tell their own customers who are already asking about this very thing, can you give us some details on this? And they refuse, I'd say you're wasting your money putting those commercials on TV. So I made a formal complaint today to the MPSC. It's really another department that Governor Snyder here created. It's no longer the MPSC. The MPSC still does the regulation, but the complaint department is a different department. So I filed a complaint with that department. And incidentally, that will have no effect other than alerting DTE that I'm complaining, which is why I did it. They have no regulatory authority over this. Hey, you have to tell them about all your pricing plans. There's no regulation in the state of Michigan that says they have to reveal this to you. And it's crazy because the whole reason that they offer you this discount in the first place is because it saves them money on infrastructure. You see, when everybody uses that power during the day, during that peak time, they have to build out infrastructure. They have to ramp up production. They have to have ability to produce that capacity and deliver it. If everybody's using it and they exceed that capacity, guess what happens? The electrical grid crashes. And it's happened around here before. Anytime it gets really hot and everybody's during the day using their air conditioners, you get a heat spell. Snap. Guess what's happening? Power stations are tripping all across the state because they get overloaded with too much request for power. Now, if you got a bunch of people doing indoor grows, and they're all doing it during the day because they don't know any better, Don't you see how that's adding to DTE's problem? So this is why they offer the incentive of having this split rate, this peak on, peak off, peak rate in the first place. But they're unwilling to A, reveal it to you, or B, tell you about it through their media relations team in a public way on the radio. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my final word on this. Because I am going to file a further complaint, which actually I already did today. And I'm expecting and anticipating that as a result of that complaint, because I brought up this media relations thing, that you might see here on this program a media rep person explaining about how you can have a cheaper electric bill as a medical marijuana patient using DTE as a client service provider in the state of Michigan. Touché.
The Full Melt Show is a production of TFM Media.